Welcome to this webinar, The Therapeutic Applications of Yoga for Children. The key question we're going to solve is, how can therapeutic applications of yoga help children? It's little known in the world today, and I'm on a mission to help more people know how to use this. So first of all, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Global Family Yoga is a family. Myself, Mira Binzen, there in the center of the picture, and my sister Stephanie on my right, and my mom, Cheryl, on my left in the pink. So the three of us started Global Family Yoga 10 years ago in 2005, taking my expertise with children's yoga and child development and their expertise in a variety of small business and not-for-profit initiatives. And we were really passionate about wanting to do something in the world to make the world a better place, to bring more peace into the world. And so we joined forces, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be sharing these resources now with you. It's a way for our family to reach out and serve the global family. And I wanted to also talk a little bit about my experience working with children and working with yoga and working with the therapeutic applications of yoga for children. It really is a new field in many ways, and it's an ancient science as well. So it's an exciting time to be getting involved. First of all, I have a degree in child psychology from the Institute of Child Development at the University of Minnesota. This is a cutting-edge research institute, and they're affiliated with the Children's Hospitals and Clinics of Minnesota. So after getting my degree from the University of Minnesota at the Institute of Child Development, I then later became a yoga therapist, the first yoga therapist at the first freestanding complementary medicine clinic in a children's hospital in North America. And they're still going strong, and it's a wonderful place to work. They called me up and they said, "Hey, yoga therapy, what's that? Come on in, we want to interview you." And they had me working there with kids who are also receiving other complementary treatments through the Children's Hospital. I also am a registered yoga teacher and a certified yoga therapist. So I did my yoga therapy with Integrative Yoga Therapy, a wonderful program really based on the 5 koshas, and I'm going to tell you more about that in this webinar. That's a 1,000-hour professional training, and I also am a certified IRES teacher. So I've combined all these different modalities into a way that's a really effective system for helping children experience well-being on all levels. And that's what I'm going to share with you on this webinar. This is a story of a mom and a daughter that came to me, and it really sparked something in me. This daughter was experiencing a tremendous amount of anxiety. Something was going on in her life. She was having a hard time eating. She wasn't eating. She was missing school. Her mom was really worried about her, and she was getting a lot of pressure from both her school teacher and the psychologist that she brought her to get on medication. And the mom was worried about the medication and the side effects. And I want to say right off the bat that I'm not in any way saying that medication isn't good and isn't effective. It works great for some people, but there are a lot of things that are better treated or certainly differently treated with other modalities. And so she approached me, being familiar with the work that I do, and she said, is there anything we can do? And so we worked together using the exact system that I'm going to share with you in this webinar, yoga therapy for children. And the mom was practicing her yoga as well, and we talked about different ways to fit that into their lifestyle. We modified it to suit them. And after just 6 weeks, we really noticed some improvement, and she never did take medication, and now they are both thriving. And so I know the school and the psychologists were very well-meaning, but what I realized was that the mom, the teachers, and the psychologists simply didn't know that yoga was an option. They didn't know how it worked or what to do. And it was so hard to watch this mom go through so much stress and agony over her daughter's mental health that it really put me on a mission to increase awareness about the therapeutic applications of yoga. I was feeling a little vulnerable about it, thinking that maybe people thought this was a little woo-woo or some kind of a religion. I know we've heard that. And that I would just wait until people sought me out. But after this experience, I knew I had to set aside any fears I had about stepping out in a bigger way and empowering others with what I had learned over the years. So I'm so excited that you're here. It's an incredible mission that we're on, And now also there's some really high quality research that's coming out of major institutions validating from the Western science model what yoga can do. Satbir Singh Khalsa is a leading researcher in the field of yoga therapy. He's a Harvard University neuroscientist, and he's really got a pulse on the research coming out on the benefits of yoga, and he's doing a lot of the research himself. And in this study here, for generalized anxiety disorder, the preliminary data that they collected showed that panic, depression, and the state of anxiety, as well as sleep disturbance, went down. And this was enough of a pilot data that allowed them to get a $4.5 million trial in Boston. That's what I like to call a lot of institutional heft behind us. And it doesn't feel so much like we're out in some satellite station all alone anymore. It's really gaining a lot of awareness and credibility in mainstream society today. So now that I've shared a little bit about who we are and what we're excited about, I want to find out who you are and make sure you're in the right place. And we had you fill out a survey when you joined the webinar. So I know that many of you attending are a social worker working out in the field or at schools. You might be a school counselor, a psychologist, an occupational therapist, or physical therapist, or a parent with a child who's got some needs that aren't being met with other modalities and you're looking for something else. And also, of course, experienced yoga teachers. One of the reasons we started our Therapeutic Yoga for Children course was because we were training people to teach kids yoga. They were getting out in the field teaching kids yoga, and the word is out that yoga can help kids deal with a lot of things, especially sensory integration, kids on the autism spectrum, attention and focus, this kind of a thing. And the kids were coming into their classes and they were like, whoa, I need a little more training. I need to understand this a little bit better. And so this webinar is for you if you have felt like I have, that there must be a way to help kids experience balance that's life-affirming with no dangerous side effects. Something that gives them skills for life, not just to survive, but to thrive. And something that doesn't treat symptoms, but addresses the whole being. Let's use a definition of yoga therapy. Yoga therapy is the process of empowering individuals to progress toward improved health and well-being through the application of the teachings and practices of yoga, which are diverse. There's so much out there beyond the yoga postures that have become so popular today. So what we're talking about is adapting practice for kids who are experiencing imbalance in their life. And we're going to show you how to turn what you're learning today from interesting information to a lasting transformation that really changes your life and enhances the well-being of your community as well. So I'm going to teach you all I can in the limited time that we have together. And before I conclude, I promise I'll show you how to take it further if that's of interest to you. You see kids suffering today. They're worried about grades and friends. They're struggling with homework. They can't pay attention and sit still when they need to in class. They aren't digesting and eliminating well. They aren't sleeping well, and they're stressed out. And we can't just sit by and watch. So I'm going to show you a few techniques that I use, and it's interesting because we have such complex problems and such complicated lives that sometimes the most simple solutions are the most effective. In yoga therapy, it's all about the breath, and in this video clip, I'll show you how I teach a classic breathing technique to children. Choo-choo breath, Kapalabhati, also known as skull shining breath or a yogi's cup of coffee. With young children, we introduce Kapalabhati like this. Choo-choo breath. Can you make your breath like a choo-choo train? Put your hand on your tummy. Can you feel your tummy moving? Can you do it with your mouth closed through your nose? Those video clips you just saw are out of our Yoga Pose Bank, and that's one of the resources available for our monthly membership program. So be sure to check that out as well, and I'll give you some more information at the end. So what's the difference between yoga and yoga therapy? Yoga therapy is yoga with a specific focus. Rather than the student molding him or herself to the structure of the class, the practice is molded to the needs of the student. And so it's individualized and modified based on that person's needs and interests. Conditions that yoga addresses particularly effectively include anxiety, learning challenges, depression, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the autism spectrum, and children who've been exposed to trauma, as well as Down syndrome and cerebral palsy. Really, it doesn't look at specific conditions so much as it looks at the whole individual and how we can bring them back into balance, regardless of what's out of balance. The yoga techniques that you'll learn in the Therapeutic Yoga for Children course, if you choose to take that with us, is not going to treat or cure anything. What yoga does is that it creates balance. All systems of the body come alive and thrive. Under these conditions, the body is able to do what it does best, and that is to heal itself. The body and mind have total well-being as their natural state. Every word, thought, and action is either contributing to our natural state of well-being or getting in the way of it. Yoga teaches you how to become more aware of and direct thoughts, words, and actions toward well-being. This system of well-being turns Western approaches on their head, and perhaps this is why headstand is considered the king of yoga postures. So how does yoga help? Yoga helps by looking at and addressing the 4 levels of connection, the 3 doshas from the system of Ayurveda, the 5 elements, which also include the 7 chakras, and the 8 limbs of yoga from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, as well as the 5 koshas. What? You might be thinking. So let's look at each one of these in a little more detail. 4 levels of connection. This is the foundation of well-being. We need to feel connected to ourselves. That's self-awareness, that's body awareness, that's a fun term I like to use called interoception, awareness of the wild terrain within ourselves. We also need to experience connection to our tribe, to our people, to be in relationship with others. Being isolated is a huge risk factor in illness and disease. Also, we need to experience connection to the natural world. Children must get outside and play. We must be barefoot in the grass. We must spend time gazing at the clouds. It is essential to our mental as well as physical health. And we must experience connection to source or the creator or whatever that means to you. It's subjective and individual, but we can't really experience total well-being on all levels unless we're experiencing connection at each and all of these 4 levels. And so when we look at the therapeutic applications of yoga for children, we're looking at facilitating connection all 4 of these areas. So think about it. Connection to yourself. We can help kids practice yoga nidra and meditate. Connection to other people. We can do partner poses, family yoga classes, and community outreach. Serving others, karma yoga or seva or volunteer work can be a form of yoga therapy, for example. Let's also look at the doshas and the elements. So this is a system of Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, and it's a big part of the therapeutic applications of yoga. And so we look at a person's individual constitution. And so the idea is that each one of us is made up of all of these 5 elements of earth, water, fire, air, and space. And these 5 elements combine into these 3 doshas or constitutions. And so 3 children with anxiety aren't going to need the same approach necessarily because they might have a different constitution or dosha. And so we don't just look at the condition, we also look at their Ayurvedic constitution as well. And we also look at the 8 limbs of yoga from Patanjali's. This is the scaffolding of the yoga practice, the foundation of our yoga practice. It includes the yamas and the niyamas. And so yoga is very much a science of the mind. And according to the yoga tradition, all illness at its root cause is a separation. It's a misapprehension about who we are. We feel separate when in reality, we're all one. We're all connected. So using our mind through the yamas and niyamas, we're becoming more connected, more aware. We're resolving imbalance. Asana, the yoga postures that are so popular and familiar, are a part of this, as well as pranayama, or formal breathing exercises. We need to be very careful when using breathing exercises with children. There's a lot of contraindications for kids that you'll learn in great detail in our complete training course, but it's important to know that we don't do a lot of breath holding. So pranayama, one definition is to restrain or hold prana, the energy. And with kids, we don't want to do so much of that holding. And so they can do a lot of regulated breathing. And as I said earlier, it's all about the breath. So pranayama is a big part of the practice when we're looking at therapeutic applications. Pratyahara is sense withdrawal. This is crucial for mental health, where our senses are pulled out in all directions, in all ways, on all days, and we need to learn to withdraw the senses. With kids, all of these things we're doing, we turn them into games, we make them fun and interactive, and kids are open to explore. They're open to new adventures. So pretending we're a turtle and going inside our shell and taking our senses inside with us is something that kids actually have fun doing. And when we teach them to do it when they're young, it's going to be easier for them to do it when they're adults. Also, dharana is concentration. Everybody could use a little help with concentration. So we might stare at a rose, a fresh flower, to help with concentration and focus. And dhyana is meditation. Yes, children can, will, and do meditate. I dare say it's a little bit easier for kids to meditate than an adult who has never tried to meditate, because there's less vrittis, less fluctuations in the mind of a child than an adult. And the 8th limb of yoga is samadhi. And more simply, we can just talk about that natural sense of ease that is present when we understand our true nature. And that's really at the heart of the therapeutic applications of yoga for children. Also, we want to look at the 5 kosha model. As I mentioned at the beginning, Integrative Yoga Therapy, they make these beautiful resources. So if you go to their website, you can see it's actually iytyogatherapy.com. There, we look at the 5 koshas. So there's 5 layers or coverings. One is the physical body. We're very familiar with that. And then we've also got our energy body, and our energy anatomy includes chakras, the pranavayus, and the nadis, which we go into in great detail in our training. The emotional body is kind of like the everyday mind. I like this, I don't like that, and our emotions. And the wisdom body is this discerning mind, the refined mind that can step back and say, there's an experience here, but I am not the experience. And then the bliss body is the closest we get to that feeling that everything's fine, just as it is. So in the therapeutic model of yoga, we are addressing all 5 bodies. We don't want to disregard any one of these layers, because we would be disregarding an aspect of ourselves. And so again, rather than looking at, for an example, a child with Down syndrome has some physical conditions that are going on. And yet we don't want to neglect this child's emotional experiences, and we don't want to neglect this child's ability to step back and witness, even though there may be some cognitive differences in how they're operating in the world. And so every child, regardless of the condition, we're looking at the whole child. An example I like to share about the therapeutic applications of yoga is one of my teachers. His name is Mathew Sanford, and at age 13, he was in a car accident, and that resulted in paralysis. So from T4, which is about the center of the chest down, he is paralyzed, and that was in the 70s. And at that time, the medical model was like, you know what, forget about the lower half of your body, just work on upper body strength. And he didn't really feel like that was the truth, and that led him to studying Eastern philosophy, Eastern psychology, and yoga. And he is here with his teacher on the left. And he has no access to abdominal muscles, and look at the posture he's holding. So it's really amazing what he's learned to do with awareness, with breath, and with tuning into his energy body. And he teaches other people yoga as well. And so it's not about the physical body, it's about the whole self. He's got a book out about his story. It's a memoir called Waking. I highly recommend reading it, because I'm sure if you've been teaching yoga at all, you've come across someone who said, "Oh, I'm not flexible enough to practice yoga." And I want to suggest this book to them, because it's not about the body, it's about the mind and about the willingness to step into the practice. He also has a wonderful DVD called Beyond Disability. And so if you are working with someone who has a physical disability, you can offer them these resources. Another wonderful resource that actually you will get for free when you sign up by September 1st for our Therapeutic Yoga for Children course is this Teacher's Toolbox. It also comes from Integrative Yoga Therapy, and it's based on the 5 koshas, and it has all the Ayurveda stuff in there and the energy body, and it's a fantastic tool. And so this is the main required resource that we have for our training course. Whether or not you take our training course, if you're interested in the deeper practices of yoga and the therapeutic modifications of yoga, I do highly recommend this Yoga Teacher's Toolbox. That's a great resource for you, so be sure to jot that down and make sure that you check that out as well. So we've looked at some specific techniques that we can use to help children experience balance on all levels, regardless of a diagnosed condition. And this is really a different approach. We're not looking at what's wrong, we're looking at what's true and how to bring all the parts and pieces together into a whole. And so, as I promised at the beginning, that I'm going to show you how to take this deeper. If you in your heart are saying, yes, I get this, I want to do this, I want to learn more, I'm going to show you how you can do that. So the course that we're offering is Therapeutic Yoga for Children. And you might be wondering, how is this going to help children? You will gain the skills to help children regulate their emotions and energy. This is incredibly empowering for children. When they're given a pill, they're like, here, something's wrong, take this pill, it'll fix it. When we teach them yoga, mudras, for example, the hand gestures that they can use, they feel self-empowered. They're like, I know how to regulate my energy. I know my energy's out of whack, and now I can change it myself. Wonderful, wonderful tool for children. You're also going to help the children gain confidence to manage their moods, to manage their energy, to make choices in their life that are contributing to their well-being, and to help children develop a deep-rooted sense of calm. Amidst any storm they may experience in life, they have a sense of their deep inner sense of calm at all times. Also, to improve physical strength and posture. This is very important as children are developing. And to develop self-awareness. Who am I? How am I? What are my needs? And what's the best action for me to take in this moment? Also, they'll benefit from individualized wellness plans that you create. You may be wondering how this course is different from other children's yoga teacher training courses. In a regular children's yoga specialty certification course, you're going to learn how to properly structure a group yoga class for children and the techniques in that class, poses, games, meditation, and relaxation practices. You're also going to learn classroom management principles. When you've got a group of kids, there's going to be a lot going on, and as the teacher, you need to learn how to create a cooperative classroom environment. And you're also going to learn sound child development principles that underlie the practice of yoga. In the therapeutic children's yoga course that we're offering in Singapore in November and next summer in the Chicago area, you're going to learn to modify the practice for individual needs. So we're not teaching you the techniques per se, but how to modify those techniques to meet that individual's needs. Also, how to assess a child's well-being at all levels, the 4 levels of connection, their dosha or constitution, and all the 5 koshas. and also to develop and deliver tailored one-on-one sessions, family and small group sessions, focusing on a specific imbalance. So for example, I offer a course called Anxious to Awesome. You're going to get that full completed course as part of this training. And so you've got a done for you, ready to go 8-week course that you can offer in your community for children who are experiencing anxiety. And you can also work with families where one family member may be experiencing imbalance, but of course it's affecting the whole family, and the whole family is affecting that individual. And then one-on-one with a specific child with a specific issue that they're looking to find balance. Thank you so much for taking the time to find out more about the therapeutic applications of yoga for children. I'm so excited because I see how this is a really hopeful strategy. I was at the International Association of Yoga Therapists conference where Satbir Singh Khalsa presented some of the work I shared with you earlier. And there's so much happening right now, and there's such recognition coming for this beautiful science that is so helpful for children and so supportive and so life-affirming. So thanks again for taking the time to join us.